So I have an hour or like a minute of me cussing, like, what in the is
I
going
know.
on here? So anyway, all right, let's start again.
Welcome to Conversations with Asha and Steve, where communication matters. Join us as we discuss effective ways to communicate, bridge the gaps, and build long-lasting relationships within your business and life. Here are your hosts, Asha Prasad and Steve Harper.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Conversations with Asha and Steve. I'm Steve Harper. With me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Dr. Asha Prasad. How are you doing, Dr. Asha?
I'm doing great, Steve. How's it going over there?
It's going good. As long as I can
Yeah.
figure out what we're doing on this recording technology and push the right buttons, it'll
Don't
be
you love
better. It'll be
technology?
great. So
Don't you
how's
love
your day going over
technology?
there?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty good. It's quite misty and cold over here already. I don't know what the temperature is over there, but it's getting that chill in the air. I
Yeah.
love this time of year. I have to tell you, I really do.
Yeah,
It's
we
my
just
favorite
got
weather.
through the Thanksgiving holiday. We're now firmly focused on Christmas coming up in a few weeks.
Mhm.
People are putting up lights, and it feels like it's the perfect time of year. I'm with you. This is one of my favorite seasons for sure.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. So what are we talking about today, Steve? What
That's
are
a
we?
great question. So, we've been talking about the banana peels of entrepreneurship and getting some really funny feedback and response from a lot of our listeners, which we appreciate greatly. But this is really resonating because we're talking about some of the things that are really challenging for a lot of business owners and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. And so today's topic is knowing where to invest your money and not screwing that up, right? Because that's a big thing,
Yeah, that's
especially
a
as
big
you're
one.
scaling or growing your business or you've got a new venture that you're starting. You know, if you are online for any period of time, people are pitching programs at you, telling you what you need to do to build your brand or how to develop your content, and they bring out this level of you don't know what you don't know, so you need to pay me for the expertise.
Yeah.
And there's all these different things of that really kind of gotchas that I think a lot of entrepreneurs can fall into relative to where they're investing those dollars. And let's face it, in a startup or even as you're scaling your business,
Mhm.
money's hard to come by. And so knowing where to make the smart investments in your business, where to put not only that capital, but where to put that trust is
Right.
super, super critical. So I thought we would just dive into that because it is definitely a place that you can slip up and it can have real dire consequences on your venture.
No, that's for sure. I mean, I think that this is one of the most important things I think for any entrepreneur, no matter where you are in the game. It doesn't matter if you're just starting out or if you're a seasoned entrepreneur. I think this is something that you have to be on top of and be really like one of the things that I learned early on, Steve, and this is very interesting because I saw this like amongst other entrepreneurs, friends of mine and colleagues and everything like that, that really your relationship with money is super important
Yeah.
to begin with. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that that may you people are like, what do you mean a relationship with money? Well, guess what? We all have a relationship to money. We relate to it in different, and we learn all these things when we're growing up as
Yeah.
well, certain belief systems to have that impacts you so much in how you treat your money, how you use your money, and how you allocate it to begin with. And that's
Yep.
like even aside from the business part of it. So I think it's really important that you start to understand that and start to realize that what your belief systems are because I mean, wouldn't you agree, Steve? Like have you like I don't know, ventured into that in your own path as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I my attitude towards money in all of the adventures that I started really comes from a feeling of lack, right? Really, really trying to protect the
Mhm.
powder that I have, and always worried about every nickel and dime that got spent. So
Right.
in most of my early ventures, that was a really critical thing to do, right? Because at the
Mhm.
end of the day, there wasn't a whole lot of margin for error. And so that
Right.
really meant that wherever I was making investments, I really had to think about it. I had to be really
Right.
purposeful. I've got other entrepreneurs I work with, some, coaching clients in kind of my recent past that actually spend money like a drunken sailor in their venture. And
Yeah, like it's
they
the water.
realize that, all these
Yeah.
things that they're doing really don't have a return on that investment. And then it really puts
Right.
them in a cash flow crunch or, prevents them from being able to make that great hire that they need because they don't have
Exactly.
enough of the the capital. And I've always gotten very comfortable with the protect the powder, right? Make sure that,
Hmm.
you've got enough to cover salaries, cover, all of the expenses, and then have some unexpected, some dollars for unexpected things that will pop up, because they will. I remember my first venture that I had, we signed a lease for this office building,
Hmm.
and I, had an attorney look at it, and there were no red flags of any kind. And
Right.
so we signed it. And then towards the end of that year, the building owner comes around for all the tenants, and he drops this, I don't even know what they call it, triple net kind of bill on my desk. And I'm like, what the
Oh
hell
my
is this? And
gosh.
I'm like, well, this is
Oh.
your portion that you have to kick in for the upkeep and building maintenance and ongoing
Really?
expenses. And it was like $4,900, like totally out
Whoa.
of nowhere, unexpected. And here I am, really, I had just actually hired two salespeople. We were really, really tight on revenue, and there was
Hmm.
always this delay for cash. In terms of getting receivables in. And man, that really caught me, completely off guard. But had we not
Yeah.
prepared to at least have a rainy day fund, that could have
Yeah.
had catastrophic consequences. Because, as we looked into the lease, like, failure to pay that was just like as bad as not paying your monthly rent, right? So
Wow. Yeah.
it could have, caused us to be evicted or have challenges. So, those things have always been, I've always tried to approach it from a responsible perspective,
Right.
and just always fearful of what's around the corner. But not a
Hmm.
lot of entrepreneurs do that, and especially
Yeah.
it's interesting because it depends on, if you're investing your own money. I think you have a tendency to be a little bit more mindful. If you are pulling
Exactly.
in partner money, or you're, have, seed money or venture money, and there's,
Exactly.
it looks like that, you got a lot of zeros behind a number in your bank
Exactly.
account. You feel confident, but it also often creates a false sense of confidence, because at the end of the day, sometimes you just don't pay attention to that. And I've actually seen that. I had a good friend that was running their business, and they're like, before you knew it, they had gone through that capital so quick that had
Exactly.
been invested, and they still weren't where they needed to be in order to, see the business sustain and go forward. And it was devastating to them. And so
Yeah.
I've fortunately been able to see these things. So it makes me super cautious when it comes to money. But not a lot of people, that I've talked to have that same
Hmm.
mindset. But what about you, as you were starting out as an entrepreneur? How was some of your formative years and attitudes around money? How did that, help shape the kind of entrepreneur and business owner you were?
Well, one thing I know from the beginning, I always had a feeling that everyone else knew it better than I did. And and you know what? It was like, okay, I knew like I wanted to do certain things, but then there would always be somebody that would come along and just knew it better. And
Yeah.
then I would trust into that, spend a bunch of money, and it would just be like, water through the fingers. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. And then, I would sit there and I would kick myself like, Asha, why did you not just follow your own gut feeling? And even if it took a little bit longer, just do it yourself. Like, what is the deal? So that was like in the beginning that I learned that really quickly that, you know what? Okay, that's not going to be, I have to really be more discerning. I have to really look at, first of all, what's the knowledge that I have? What's the knowledge that I can acquire myself? What am I paying for? Who am I paying? Do I trust this person?
Yeah.
Do we have set, clear goals of what our benchmarks are, what our goals are, what our outcomes are going to be? How are we going to measure that? All of those things. And also, Steve, the other thing that I started doing, this was probably about 10, 12 years ago, probably now. I started just doing just a standard thing before anything. 20% of all income that was coming in just goes aside, goes into an
Mm.
account as my rainy day fund. And I will tell you, with the recent pandemic that occurred, that saved my butt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, here I am in a country where my brick and mortar businesses had to close down for a total within the 24 months. I was closed about 8 to 9 months of that.
Yeah.
Now, can you
I remember.
imagine, with the payroll, with everything that you have to pay? That really saved me
Yeah.
because, and it was one of those things that I literally thought, you know what? I just want to make sure that I have enough for, like you said, the rainy day in case something happens. I
Yeah.
didn't know that I was saving that up for pandemic, but whatever it was, like I had no idea that that's what it was, the COVID fund. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, but the thing about that is, so here's the thing. I know as a beginning entrepreneur, 20% sounds like a lot. Okay. Sounds like a lot. But the thing about it is, no matter, even if you can do 5%, 10%, whatever it is, set something aside. And,
Yeah.
it can be as little or as much as you can, but set it aside, have it there for the just in cases, the things that you don't see, that you don't know are on its way. So that way you don't have to stress about it. And
Yeah.
then next to that, whatever you are giving your money out to, you have to ask yourself some questions. What is this? What is the benefit of this? What is the value of this? Can my business operate without it? Can it operate successfully without it or
Yeah.
with it? Does it need it? So that way you always have some sort of criteria, some kind of filter system that you are making all your financial decisions from. I
Yeah.
think that will help you. And if you learn that early on, it'll save you so much down the road.
Yeah,
Really.
and like
Yeah.
you said, I think that's a huge factor for people to consider
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, you really need to fully understand where those dollars are going, right? You have
Yeah.
to understand, like you said, what am I getting out of this? What is the return on this
Right.
investment? And I know entrepreneurs that, I mean, they will not spend $25 without understanding, okay, how is this going to make us better? How is this going to help the
Mhm.
business? How is it going to help us acquire more
Right.
customers or have some immediate, type of payoff for the business? And I think
Mhm.
it's really good to have that level of detail. It is, as your business grows and scales and you've got more cash in the bank,
Yeah.
you have a tendency, and I've seen it, that you get a little less cautious and you get a little
Yeah.
less discerning, and that becomes a problem because
Yes.
when you take your eye off the ball there, if you have other people that are controlling your money, all of a sudden they start to do the same. I've experienced this in my own software company where we spend a tremendous amount in development expense, and
Mhm.
I've stepped away from the day to day and of at least those types of decisions, feeling like I was pretty discerning about how we did it beforehand. I felt like I had
Right.
set the expectations correctly with key members of the team, but maybe not as much. And when I looked at our annual spend just this year in terms of our burn rate and what we've invested in
Mhm.
versus what we're getting back, it really has required that I come back and sort of look to take a little bit more decided role, because
Right.
we're making decisions that really aren't being discussed and weren't being strategically aligned, and
Mhm.
we were just spending money like like a drunken sailor in some respects. And
Right.
so I had to tell the team, like, hey, look, whoa, yeah, you're writing checks. It's that Top Gun line. You're writing checks that your body can't cash, right?
Exactly.
This is my money. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to be greedy, but at the end of the day, it stinks because you have to do certain things, but
Mhm.
you can't just keep throwing money at certain things without understanding, okay, what's that return? And that actually,
Yeah.
sometimes means that, you've made a decided, decision, or you've gone down a path and you might have to cut a project. You might have to stop,
Yeah.
paying a contractor. You might have to stop or reevaluate who's going to continue to be the benefactor of wherever those monies or the investment go.
Right.
And that becomes difficult, but it is a necessary evil within the business, because there are
It is.
cash is king. When you can have
Yeah.
cash in hand in the bank account, it gives you a lot of flexibility to test some things without too much risk. But when you have razor thin margins and you
Yeah.
don't have the luxury of a lot of high paying clients or opportunities coming in the door, and so it's really hand to mouth, you have to be more discernible, and you have to have that process,
Yeah.
like Asha said, going through this, painstakingly looking at these things and
Yeah.
saying, okay, what's the right decision? What's the what maybe isn't the right decision?
No, but absolutely, Steve. And the other thing that I do want to add to this is that Don't let other people force you into believing that you have to do it right now either. I mean, here's the thing. There's always that fear of missing out. This is the
Yeah.
right time. This is the right time. And you know what? I do believe, and I've had to learn this over the years. The right time is exactly when the right time is. And
Yep.
no one can tell you. I mean, yes, there may be an opportunity that you think, gosh, I have to jump on this right now. But you know what? If it's going to financially stress you out, is it worth it? You have to ask
Yeah.
yourself, am I willing to take
Yeah.
that risk? Is this worth it? But don't let other people, and this is very difficult in the beginning, definitely whenever you're starting out, because you feel like, oh my God, if I don't do this, or if I don't work with this person, or if I don't, whatever it is,
Yep.
I'm going to miss out. I'm not going to succeed. And that's not true.
Yeah.
It's really
That's
not true.
exactly right.
And that's a hard one, I think. I think it's very tough. With a lot of my coaching clients that have been in those situations, they have voiced that. They're just like, well, gosh, but I feel like I'm not going to, keep up with this person or do what everybody else is doing. I'm just like, listen, you've got to just trust in yourself and trust in your vision enough and your team that it's going to be okay. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
This is not the solution to stress yourself out to where you're going to have sleepless nights. I mean, I was working with somebody. This is a coaching client of mine from a couple of years ago, and she's in such a different state now. But whenever I met her and we started coaching together, she was in so much financial debt
Yeah.
unnecessarily because her business was generating so much. I mean, but she just was in this constant, just kind of like, just not evaluating, not pausing, just saying
Yeah.
yes to everything. And it was so unnecessarily. And, whenever we were working together, shifting some of that mindset and that belief really helped a great
Absolutely.
deal to be able to do that. So,
Yeah, and it's not only just out of pocket expense, right? You have to
right.
look at the things that you're doing that is driving your revenue, and then what those margins are, right? Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, if you are generating tremendous amounts of cash, but your
Yeah.
margins are so thin,
Mhm.
it's a vanity metric for a lot of business owners to say, oh yeah, I've got $1 million business, but it's costing
Yes,
you
of course.
$975,000 to run that $1 million
Exactly.
business.
Exactly.
You're not really being successful. You're not being profitable, and that's a serious problem. So,
No,
well,
that's true.
there's probably a lot more that we could share on this, but I'd love
Yeah.
to hear how our audience, whether they're watching this on video for YouTube or
Mhm.
Facebook, or they're hearing it on any of the podcast platforms. We'd love to hear their feedback and input on that. So,
Mhm.
Asha, how can people get in touch with us and be a part of this conversation?
Yeah, no, definitely. People can go over to any of our social media platforms, Facebook or Instagram. Definitely send us a message there. Go to YouTube, go to our website, conversationwithashaandsteve.com, and definitely send us a message there. We'd love to hear from you. I would be interested to hear where people are investing their money and how they actually discern and have that decision-making process. I'd love to hear from our listeners. Wouldn't you, Steve, just to,
Yeah,
to learn a little bit
I would
more?
as well, because this
Yeah.
is an important topic, and it is one that can really trip you up in business
Hmm.
and can have dire consequences, like putting you out of business and putting
Yeah.
even your own personal financial situation at risk because you are the
Yeah.
business owner. So this is an
True.
important one. We'll be back again with another great episode of Conversations with Asha and Steve very soon. We'll continue this series of the banana peels of entrepreneurship, and so we will see you guys soon.
Sounds good. Till next time.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Conversations with Asha and Steve. We love to hear feedback and questions from our listeners. Please feel free to visit our Facebook page for more tips and information. You can also email us directly at info@ripplecentral.com for more information.